Good evening, Fire Charges. Death Lightning 44 with the mask on. And please note that 6% is not a majority. So today we're going to be talking. We're going to do this video. I'm going to hold my deck of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading Card Game, which is a product of Intelligent Design. If I came to you and I said, is this card game the product of Intelligent Design? You would say, if you're rational, you would say, duh. Of course it is. I mean, it even has a copyright date on it. And a company logo. Well, the company name. And there's even the name Kazuki Takahashi's name printed right next to the copyright date. So, what if I told you that you are more complex than this card game? That is a fact. So, if this card game is the product of Intelligent Design, the logical conclusion is that you, who are more complex, who is more complex than this card game, is definitely the product of Intelligent Design. Note, I'm not promoting the Intelligent Design movement, the ID movement. For some reason, Wikipedia thinks that's an attempt to revive creation science. However, that is incorrect. One source, I don't recall whether it was Answers in Genesis or Questions Ministries, which says that Intelligent Design is not related to the creation science, nor is it even theistic. So, we're going to talk. So, I'm going to do what nobody has done before. Or, not only am I going to tell you, hey, look at this. Look at this A. It's the product of Intelligent Design. And so, you're more complex than it, so the logical conclusion is that you are too the product of Intelligent Design. And so, a lot of people have done that, but I'm going to take it a step farther. This is what no one has done. I'm going to actually mention how to do or use the A that is a product of Intelligent Design. So, how do I actually play the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading Card Game? Step 1. You need a deck of 40 to 60 Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG cards. If you only have 36, you can't, fill her in with Pokemon or Digimon or Yokai Watch cards. All 40 to 60 cards must be from the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading Card Game. Now, there are three different types of cards. There's spells, traps, and monsters. We'll get into each one of these on a different. First, we're going to talk about spells. I think all spells are of a spell speed 1. Okay, spell speed is something that spells and traps have. All spells are of spell speed 1 except for quick play spells, which are spell speed 2, as are all trap cards except for counter traps, which are spell speed 3. Each spell speed can be played only in response to a card of a lower or equal spell speed. I cannot use a spell speed 1 card in response to a spell speed 2 card. Alright, so say if your opponent plays a spell speed 3 card, i.e. a counter trap, then the only cards that you are allowed to play in response to form this chain link, not to be confused with link summoning, are other counter traps. So remember, these 5 categories of spells normal, continuous, ritual, field, and equip, all spell speed 1. Quick play spells, along with the 2 category of traps, normal and continuous, are of spell speed 2. Counter traps are of spell speed 3. You can only play a spell speed. Cards that have a certain spell speed can only be played if in a chain. You can only play cards with the spell speed in response to cards with an equal or lower spell speed number, never a higher one. So there are 6 different types of spell cards. These are normal, continuous, quick play, what is it called? Equip, field, and ritual. Normal spells. Each spell has an effect written on it. Normal, field, and ritual. Normal, quick play, and ritual. Go to the graveyard the turn that their effect kicks in. And, its effect kicks in. As soon as you activate it, its effect kicks in. As soon as its effect is complete, it goes to the graveyard. Certain spell cards may have effects that last multiple turns. And wait, let me actually check for that. I think it's called Swords of Revealing Light. Yeah, Swords of Revealing Light is a normal spell card. It's not a field spell. I know that because I don't have any field spells in this deck. So under certain conditions, the effect of normal quick play and rituals of normal and quick play might last longer than 1 turn. However, rituals or spells which induce a ritual summon and therefore must go to the graveyard as soon as the ritual summon is complete can never have their effects last for more than 1 phrase. Turns are divided into phrases. However, continuous spells do last for more than 1 turn. In fact, usually they have certain effects that tell them when they can be disposed of. For example, if a continuous spell might target a certain monster and say, if that monster is destroyed, destroy this card. If that monster is destroyed, destroy this card applies for every single equip spell. Except for Horn of the Unicorn, which just goes back to the deck. However, if there is no clause on that, on the continuous spell, then the continuous spell will remain on the field unless destroyed by a card that destroys spells, like Dispel, Dark Magic Attack, or Mystical Space Typhoon. So, equip spells are spells that are equipped to a certain monster. Usually they do effects like raise the monster's attack or defense points. It's like Castle Walls. Wait, actually Castle Walls is a trap. It's a continuous trap. Wait, is it? So spell cards work with. Then there's field spell cards. Field spell cards are in their own field zone, not in the spell and trap zone. Since they exist in their own field zone, they act over the entire field. Usually field spell cards are something like like boost the attack and defense of every monster of this type, of every active monster of this type by this many points. They basically strengthen certain monsters depending on what type they are. Next, we're going to move on to traps. There are 3 types of traps: normal, counter, and continuous. Counter traps are traps that are activated in response to other traps. That's why it's called a counter trap card. Continuous traps are just like continuous spells, except they're trap cards. No, I wanted to say something. In order to play a trap card, you must first set it face down on the field first. Then you can activate it on subsequent turns. They usually activate, like, say if there's a chain forming. The trap cards will usually say which scenarios they can activate it in. For example, you can just activate them manually once it's your turn again. You can also do that with spell cards. In fact, spell cards can be set face down and activated on the same turn, unless they're quick play spells, in which if you set them face down, you can't activate them until a subsequent turn. In fact, quick play spells can actually be activated on your opponent's turn, like 0% of other spells and 100% of traps. Then again, if you're just going to set a spell card face down and then activate it on that same turn, you might as well just place it on the field face up. Trap cards that activate on your opponent's turn usually activate in response to certain things your opponent does, like starting a chain, summoning a monster, or declaring an attack. Now, counter traps are in response to other counter traps. Because of their high spell speed, the only cards that can be played in response to counter traps are other counter traps. Spell cards have like this. Let me show you the color. Like this color on the background, you can see Shard of Greed. That's a continuous spell. They have that like infinity symbol. And this is Miracle Restoring, a trap card. You see that color? By the way, you can identify the type of spell trap just easy. Normal spells and traps have no symbol at all in the right. Around the top right, just below the, the emblem ruby, with the kanji, that stuff. Continuous, I'm just saying continuous because this applies to both continuous spells and traps, have like this infinity symbol. Counter traps have a reverse arrow, a curved arrow for the emblem. Field spells have like a compass rose star type thing. And equip spells have a plus sign. Ritual spells have, like a flame. And last but not least, the quick play spells have a lightning bolt. I think that I said everything that there is to say about spells and traps. Now it's time to move on to the monsters. There are several types of monsters. There are monster tokens, which generally don't really do anything. They usually have 0 attack and defense points, and some of them can only be, like the lamb token, can only be activated with the effect of certain cards. Alright. The context of tokens usually goes by I activate the effect of this card and summon this many Karibo tokens or lamb tokens or whatever to the field. Or sometimes you could say, send this many tokens to the graveyard. This card gets X many attack points. But tokens aren't really, but you won't really see that many token cards in your dueling experience. I have seen some in Duel Links, but I've never actually seen any in real life. That's probably because the only people I have actually dueled in real life don't have any token cards in their possession. So now to normal monsters. Normal monsters have no... This is the quantity. First, I'll show you. This is a spell card. It has the name along with the ruby and sign that it's a spell card, and this little sign, the image, this little script, the passcode right here. Sometimes they won't have a passcode, sometimes there are certain cards with the ring that have the designation of illegal. In those cases, instead of a passcode, these cards will be marked with the phrase, this card cannot be used in a duel, or this card cannot be present in a deck. Then there's the effect of the spell card, then the copyright 1996 Kazuki Takahashi, if any of that is misspelled, or if the name or the copyright 1996 Kazuki Takahashi is even one lowercase letter, then the card is fake. These trap cards have a lot of the same characteristics as spell cards, and so do monster cards. However, monster cards have an attribute right here. They have a level, or rank, or skill rating. They have a type. They usually have a short little blurb, unless they're effect monsters, in which they're orange and have an effect. And have the word effect written in next to their type. They have attack points and defense points, even if the attack and defense value is 0. If they have no effects, they're normal monsters and they're just yellowish. This is an effect monster. It has the word effect next to its type. Instead of having a blurb, it has an effect. And it has a different color background than Wattail Dragon. So there are 3 ways you can summon monsters. You can normal summon, that is just plop it down on the field, and you don't need to activate any cards, any spells, traps, or other card effects. There's also some normal summons might require you to tribute monsters, send them to the graveyard. That depends on the monster's level. There are also flip summoning, in which case a monster that was previously set in face down defense changes to face up attack mode on a subsequent turn. Some monsters actually have flip effects. You actually see a lot of this you actually first see this in one episode of the anime, in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal anime. So, hey, 20 minutes, there are a lot of features in this card game. And then there's Special Summon, which actually gets into all the cards that we're about to speak about. Fusion Summon. Fusion summoning occurs with the spell card Polymerization. When you fusion summon, all the required fusion material listed on the fusion monster goes to the graveyard, as does the spell card Polymerization. Note, they can be in your deck, on your field, or in your hand. And you actually have to activate the spell card Polymerization, in which case, after all that happens, then the fusion monster, its surrounding background is purple, and it has the word fusion written into its effects, and on the top it has, the fusion material. In that case, it becomes the fusion monster moves from the extra deck straight to the field. Now, next there are ritual monsters. Ritual monsters appear when you activate a ritual spell card. The ritual spell card will usually tell you which ritual monsters can be summoned. Ritual monsters go in your main deck. And ritual monsters are very powerful. They will usually tell you what you have to do in order to, for example, certain ritual spells might tell you sacrifice this many life points per level. However, in other cases, you just need to sacrifice monsters until the total sum of their levels is at least the level of the ritual monster. Yes, about fusion monsters, there's one specific fusion monster, Valkyrion the Gamma Warrior, in which you don't use Polymerization to fusion summon it. In that case, you actually banish the fusion material. When a monster is destroyed, it goes to the graveyard. When a trap or a spell card completes their effect or are destroyed, they go to the graveyard. Or if you have more than 6 cards by the end of your turn, you must send one to the graveyard. So, what else? Oh yeah. So, ritual monsters. Wait, did I cover? Then you plot the ritual monster, which has like a blue surrounding area on the field. Now, XYZ monsters. It's spelled XYZ. They have XYZ written onto their effects. It's pronounced XZs. You do this. XZ's monsters go in your extra deck. You make an XZ's XZ's monsters will usually tell you their XZ's material. For example, this many monsters of this level. For example, Utopia has 2 level 4 monsters. Gimmick Puppet of Leo has 3 level 8 monsters, and the XYZ material required to XYZ summon Gimmick Puppet Disaster Leo is 4 level 9 monsters. You don't send the XYZ material to the graveyard, you just stack them on top of another, and once you have this pillar of enough monsters of the correct level, you can just plot your XYZ monster, which has a black surrounding area, from the extra deck right to the field. XYZ monsters will occasionally tell you to discard, which means send to the graveyard, I would run Xyz Material Aerial in order to activate certain effects. You can transform your Xyz monsters with Chaos Xyz Evolution deck card. Okay, next up, Synchro Summon. Synchro Summoning is basically the same thing as Xyz Summoning, except it's kind of like a meld of Xyz Ritual and Ritual Summoning. But it's like Xyz Summoning because there's no spell card involved. It's like Ritual Summoning because the level requirements and the cards go to the graveyard. In order to Synchro Summon, you must send at least one tuner monster and one other non-tuner monster to the graveyard. The sum of the synchro material sent to the graveyard of all the levels of the synchro material sent to the graveyard must equal exactly the level of the synchro monster you are attempting to synchro summon. Synchro Summoning first appears in the 5Ds anime, and Xyz Summoning first appears in Zexal. Excellent. Synchro monsters have like a grayish-white background. Fusion, Xyz, Ritual, Synchro. Is there anything left? Yes, Pendulum Summoning. I learned that a couple while ago. You pendulum summon monsters, you can do it in two ways. Pendulum monsters can just be summons like normal monsters, or used in your monster zone, or used like spells in your spell and trap zones. In fact, you can do as many special summons as you want in a turn, and as many flip summons as you have face down defense monsters, but only one normal summon per turn. You can only change the... Okay, next, Link Summoning. By the way, Synchro monsters go in your extra deck. Just saying, and Pendulum monsters, I don't know. Link monsters go in your extra deck. They have like a honeycomb hexagonal-like texture, but that surrounding area is the same color of Ritual monsters. They go in your extra deck, unlike Ritual monsters, and you activate them by sending Link material to the graveyard. I don't remember, I think it might have something to do with level requirements. Ornaments, blah 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 blah. So you must sacrifice Link material to the graveyard until I think it has something to do with the level. It must... Yeah. Xyz and Link monsters don't have levels. Xyz have ranks and levels have, what is it called? And Links have Link rating. Now let's talk about the parts of the turn. The draw phase. The draw phase exists in every turn of the duel except for what is the very first turn. You can only draw when it's your turn. Next, the standby phase. If it only happens if there is a card's effect that says, as every standby phase, add one counter to this card or whatever. If there is no card effect that mentions the standby phase, then the standby phase doesn't exist. Next, the first main phase, in which you just summon normal summon, in which you just normal special and flip summon monsters. Note, you cannot flip summon a monster on the same turn that you summon it, that you set it. You cannot change a monster's battle position manually on the same turn that you summon it, or you also can't do that if it attacks that turn, or if you already manually changed it that turn. So you get to summon monsters and activate some spells and traps. Next is the battle phrase, in which you basically attack your opponents. This does not exist on the first turn of the duel. Next, there's the second main phase. This doesn't exist in Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links, in which you basically summon normal summon monsters only if you didn't already do it during the main